Welcome back to another episode of the Decision Hour. I'm your host, Adam Bird. Folks, I've got another hot episode lined up for you today. Today, we're talking with Operation Vet Now, OVN. And listen, if you're already online listening to this, go ahead and open up another browser. Go to OPVETNOW, opvetnow.org. Open up another browser. Go check out their website. I'm talking with my man, Tony Aubrey, today. Tony, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, I've seen, I've followed you guys for a little while now. I've seen you guys on the internet. Really cool organization. And before we dive into the organization, let's get to know Tony a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
You grew up, outside of the Pittsburgh area, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Joined the Air Force, when I was 17, graduated high school, went right to basic training, did 22 years active duty, was a mechanic most of the time,
Nice.
an analyst, did one of my tours, tour as a recruiter, not always any of our favorite tours. I retired in 2006. And, post-military service, I got into marketing, event marketing mostly. That's kind of what drove us up to Operation Vet Now. We used a lot of our board, our background. We're all veterans, but we're marketers, event marketers, and we know how to reach people, and we're veterans at heart. And that's kind of the fast of it,
I love it. So Operation Vet Now, I'm on the website and it's just, there's a lot to this. It's awesome. I'm loving it. It's a cool color too. What is Operation Vet Now? What is it? How did it get started?
So let's see, we're about 6 years old now.
Okay.
And several of us on our board, it's amazing. Our board, other than the addition of 3 people, is the same board that we started with back then, same chairman.
Nice.
But most all of us served together in some fashion. And several of us lost some teammates, some close friends to suicide. And I can tell you, I got out running fast forward, working as much as I could, anything to take my focus off, the change of getting out of the military. But anyways, a bunch of us started to talk about, suicide, is it really that bad amongst veterans? We saw this 22 a day, and we're like, that can't be right. That's, somebody's blowing that up to do something. And so we spent about a year really doing research, as we talked, said, how can we help? We said, hey, let's get to be a part of an organization, and then we'll put our efforts there. And, we all have some marketing background now. Maybe we can use that, resources to connect. Well, when we got out there, we found out the space to get help was about as confusing as could be. We had a long discussion, multiple discussions about, man, if I was in a bad place and I reached out for help, this is a scary situation. So we kind of talked to some veterans. We surveyed veterans. Funniest thing was the worst thing they said they ever did to look for help was Google for it. And they said they got everything from ask for money. A big thing that really concerned us was nobody responded.
Right.
That was like a red flag.
Yeah.
When we saw, here's a website, here's a social media platform, and they're pumping out, what they do for veterans. Somebody drops them a line.
And then nobody responds.
So what we did was we said, you know what? Let's not create another organization that is, we have therapy services or whatever. When we researched, there is a ton of great organizations out there, and there's a lot of money donated to keep them going. The VA itself, obviously, we know is a huge budget, and how their strategy is, we're not always
clear on.
We can't figure out. Yeah. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. So what we did is we said, hey, let's start to look for ones we can partner with, ones that we hear from veterans that they say, hey, they're moving the needle in the right direction.
Yeah,
I got help there. And so we started to reach out, and we said, hey, we've got some background in how to reach target audiences. And we know we're veterans ourselves, and we want to go to places that nobody else is going, where veterans hang out. It's a comfort zone. and let's bring the two together.
Yeah.
And sports and activities were the first thing that we looked at. So we went out, checked out some events, no veterans organizations there. We see in the NFL, they're honoring, the Pat Tillman Award. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I never take away from anyone that honors someone.
Right.
What's behind that
is a different story.
Shame on them if they're not doing it for the right reason. But that's great. But we said, you see social media after social media platform and website after website, digitally, as you know, people can create things and, it's up there. So we decided, hey, let's start an outreach where we go into areas like I mentioned earlier, before the show, we were talking about Salamanca, New York, where there's a world professional snowcross race, snowmobiles. So we went up and we worked with the series, found out it's got about a 7% of the audience is veterans, which is good. Yeah. About 18,000 show up to the event. And Salamanca is like in a rural area.
Right.
So we went up, and what we do is we look at local veterans organizations that are in the community itself. And these are a lot that veterans never hear about because they don't have big marketing budgets. They're not on TV and so forth. So we do the logistics work. We bring them in. We promote it. We work with the series. And that's kind of how it all started. So we go to the outreach. We look for a place where the veteran's in their comfort zone. It's a non-threatening environment. They might walk up with a beer in their hand and say, what's happening? And as you know, two veterans can strike up a conversation in about 30 seconds. And the commonalities are crazy. So I didn't mean to get going down a path.
No, that's great. I want to highlight. So this OVN, you guys support other now you guys are a nonprofit yourself, yes? So right, you guys the money that you raise, I'm assuming goes to some of the things that you guys do in and of within the organization yourself, but you're helping other nonprofits move forward and succeed in their mission. Right.
We want to see those nonprofits if they have the capacity. We want to fill that capacity.
Can we just sit on that and marinate on that for a second? How many organizations, how many people out there with all of the veteran nonprofits that are around in the United States, with like over 400,000, some was the last number I saw. It was some astronomical amount.
Holy cow!
And you look at it and how many? Everybody's always worried about competing with the other one because they're trying to get funding from the same people and blah 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 blah. And you would think that in our community that we would try to come together and work together more often, right. and we don't. So I think what you guys are doing, Tony, is my hat's off to you. This is amazing to hear that you guys are wanting to go out and help other nonprofit organizations succeed and move forward with their mission.
And that's a lot of the focus. We, like I said, to back up to the research and all we did, we feel there is a lot of good help out there. Yeah. It's just the veterans aren't getting into that help. And we need to close that gap.
Yeah.
A veteran, even if they're not in crisis or they're really in a good way in life at the time we cross paths with them, at least we plant that seed and they're educated. Where do I go if I ever need it?
Yeah.
Or even just as important, where can I send my buddy?
Yeah, exactly.
Where can I help a friend?
Yeah.
Communities, if you've never been a veteran, learn how you can help a veteran. We've met more, as we call civilians, that want to help veterans, but they're afraid. They're afraid they're going to do it wrong. They don't know what to do. Or sometimes the media paints a different picture of us.
Right.
But that's what we're trying to do. So we don't. You mentioned like with fun. A couple of the big events we do. We have like a motorcycle ride with one, so they donate to ride. That goes in to cover the cost of the event.
Right.
Anything else goes into more outreach services. We pretty much don't go out for grants, so we're not competing with an organization that's providing service. And the way we run is people see what we do and they donate.
I love
so, we get it here, and here. And, a big part of what we do, the other side of it is honoring those that we've lost. mostly, they never made it home from combat. We've lost to suicide in training. And that really comes from the heart of the organization. All of us on the board have teammates, fellow service members that we lost. And we wanted to do it in honor of them. And so the Fallen Heroes Tribute Project is part of that. And we're close to 500 fallen heroes we've honored over the years.
Wow. I want to move on with one of your programs. You have you mentioned a lot about sports, right? You have an ambassador athlete program. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I tell you, this is probably one of the most exciting things we've seen growth in the organization. We're small. We don't fool anybody. We're 100% volunteers. But about 3 years ago, we had a young guy and a young girl. Young guy, Connor Matthews, was an Air Force combat controller.
Okay.
Did a tour in Afghanistan. Jiu-jitsu is Connor's baseline.
Yeah.
Baseline in life. And now he's a UFC MMA fighter. But we got in a conversation and he wanted to help veterans. Then again, how do we go about it? He says, jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't be alive today without it.
Right.
So we started to talk and we said, hey, let's share that about veterans. He's up in the Boston area. Let's share with veterans up there to get involved. So he did a free clinic every Sunday for first responders and veterans. They could come in and get an orientation to jiu-jitsu. And then we had another young lady who was a daughter of a Marine. It's actually the Marine that's on the front page of our website is Owen. And we lost Owen about a year ago. He was a Marine in Vietnam, and he was a huge supporter of our organization. And his daughter really wanted to help in the suicide prevention space, and she was a professional snow bike racer. So she helped us on that side to spread the message.
Oh, wow.
And so that's where it started. We added another MMA fighter. Sean Lally was a Ranger, had an amazing story. And so we kind of floated it along, and we saw the huge interest by other veterans to get involved.
Yeah.
And we kind of tested it a while. And then it's been about a year. We kind of opened it up. Somebody from the VA met one of our athletes, decided to do a story on them. And they thought it was amazing. So the VA profiled 5 of them in an article. Probably about 85% of them have diagnosed PTSD, traumatic brain injury, some type of a mental health disorder. And they use their sport as their therapy. And so that's what we did. We expanded out. We saw so many veterans that sports was their answer. The doctor wasn't, the prescription wasn't, the therapist, and don't get me wrong, that those services are the right fit for many of us who served.
Right.
But our ambassadors, their mission is out there to say, hey, look, there's hope, there's ways to live here's the biggest thing is with them is they found their sport to be sustainable and be able to be part of their daily life and doable, where they did not want to go to a doctor or a therapist for the next 20 years.
Right.
They needed something that was, what do you look forward to?
Right.
I never look forward to a therapy or a doctor's appointment. I look forward to going and playing golf or riding my dirt bike.
Right.
Hanging with other guys. So,
right. Yeah. And I'm glad you put it that way, Tony, because I've on a personal level, I've tried the prescriptions. I've done the group therapies and the one-on-ones and stuff like that. And I'm an outdoors guy. I grew up hunting and fishing. Like fishing and hunting are my go-to. Like I'll fish, and if I could get paid to fish every day, I would do that. Whether I catch fish is just a bonus. Like just being out on the water, and then hunting the same thing. Like put me in a tree stand or let me hike the mountains and go after a big game. That that's therapy to me. Like that's what gets me centered, grounded, if you will. Not the other stuff. The other stuff is just a lot of the time to think. And I think what's nice about what you guys are offering, and especially the sports program, is so many people. I love the jiu-jitsu stories. I did that stuff for years, and I think it's cool that you guys are going to all these different, you have these different types of athletes out there promoting this as we should. More and more people need to get involved doing this stuff. One, it's just healthier.
Yeah.
In an overall,
Yeah.
let's look at put the PTSD and all that other stuff. Just overall health. It's better to be moving around and doing something anyway.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, even if exactly that's what we said. Even if things are going good, you need that mentally and physically.
Yeah.
It's wellness on both sides. It's good. Like you said it well. Like when you're out, fishing or hunting, your brain zeroes in on what am I doing to hit that target, to find that. I mean, my tree stand, you're totally focused. And that gets our brain working in a manner it needs to be.
Right.
There's too many distractions in life. And we've seen, I think we're in about 20 different sports, located in about just over 30 states.
Wow.
And we compete in almost every state. And every athlete on our team says the same thing, almost exactly what you said. I love to train, but I train for a purpose. I've always been told, go to the gym, you need to be in shape.
Yeah.
But what's my motivation to go to the gym?
Right.
But now that I have my sport and a team, if I'm competing, so every ambassador athlete, some of the few requirements are, you have to compete in an organized or sanctioned series. And a lot of what's behind that is because if you bring other veterans in, we want there to be a system they can be part of so that it's organized,
right.
Not, hey, let's go play basketball that's great, down at the park.
Right.
But, there's
some type of competitiveness. Is that what I'm understanding?
It's also that, and in our military DNA, we're built on structure,
right?
Checklists, schedules, times to be there, planning, pre-preparation. Well, we see series competitions. It requires that to compete. And then obviously teamwork. So a great group we work with is the Veteran MX Foundation. And we found more veterans out on dirt bikes all over the country. And now we've seen a lot of racetracks and even the big series. They're doing one in New Mexico we're helping out with. It's called the Warrior Class. Yeah. So only veterans can compete, but it draws them in. And we've got a Marine out in California that started one himself. Johnny started a Heroes class on his own. This is what our ambassadors are doing. Last year, he got 13 in the very first one he did. When we left there, we now have a connection to all 13 of those guys, in this case, guys. And Johnny has a network there. And their baseline is if they ever need anything, help, connected to care, find help, they have OVN as their baseline. They reach out to us. We'll go to a partner in their area and say, hey, dude, here you go. Or girls, guys, whatever it may be. But we have so many examples of that. And that's that passion we see behind our ambassadors to find ways to get them connected. And man, I tell you, we've got a couple bull riders, we've got bronc riders, pickleball player, man. We got a retired lieutenant colonel who's a nationally ranked guy. Rev is his nickname, man. The guy's amazing. So yeah, and a lot of fun stuff. And they get on together on social media. Instagram has really been a huge plus for us to connect with other veterans. They DM us because they see the other ambassadors, activities and all that. So yeah, it's been cool. I tell you, for me, it's motivating to me. Every day I get a text or a DM or I see them post something. It's just like, it reminds me how amazing the people I serve with are, and we know not everybody we served with was amazing, but
there's always one bad seed, or I shouldn't say bad seed, but there's always that one. Folks, if you're listening to us right now, that means you're already online. Open up another browser, go check out opvetnow.org and get involved. And if you're a veteran out there listening, they're going to be expecting to hear from you, especially if you hear some of the stuff. I mean, what would you say, Tony? 20 sports in 30 states or 30? What was that?
Yeah, about that. Yep.
Wow. So if you're like vets, if you guys are out there and you're looking for something and you're needing something, I'm pretty sure they have it. I mean, and they probably have somebody near you.
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Reach out to them. Tony, this is great stuff, man. What do you guys have coming up? You got some events and stuff coming up. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, back to the outreach side and honoring our heroes. We have a couple core events, but a big one is August 3rd in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, right about 30 miles outside of Pittsburgh. Everybody knows Pittsburgh better. It's called the 6th Annual Fallen Heroes Run and Veteran Appreciation Event. We're going to be honoring three of the 19 soldiers that were killed in action in Somalia. And those particular three, because the event is in Pennsylvania and they were from Pennsylvania. So we have a motorcycle ride, and then we probably 40 plus organizations will be set up to provide help for veterans. We have a band called Task Force Rock, an amazing group. It was started by one of our board members who's a retired combat controller. Couple Green Berets in the group. So really a cool deal for that day. The ride goes out to one of the heroes' hometowns. Sergeant First Class Earl Fillmore, Sergeant First Class Randall Shugart, and Corporal Richard Kaluski, who were all killed in action in Somalia, who will be honored.
That's awesome. And folks, we're going to get a flyer. And again, you can go to their website to get information and stuff as well. Tony, we're coming up on time. I got another question that I want to ask you. Actually, I lied. There's a couple questions. Here's another one. And you kind of touched on it, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into this because I think it's something important and it's special. But what makes OVN stand out above other nonprofits in the veteran space, particularly?
I think, what we really want the other organizations to understand is, especially the small ones that are doing good things, is we're here to help. We're here to get you in front of more veterans, because our goal isn't for them to know OVN. It's to know where to go for the help. And if they ever need it, we mentioned the outreach in Greensburg. That's how it is. That started with about 3 organizations, and now we're over 40 and counting. We just, in a one way, we want to show our appreciation for the hard work these organizations do, the ones that save our brothers and sisters' lives daily.
I love that. I think it's great what you guys are doing. Last question, Tony. The show that you're on is called The Decision Hour. We got to make decisions every day, right?
Yeah.
So name a time in your life where your feet are on the line and you have to make that decision. What is it, and what's the atmosphere like?
Oh, geez. Talk about putting you on the spot. That's what I try to think. Probably back to military times is easy. You get faced with a lot of decisions there.
Yeah.
I was a Desert Storm guy. I spent 9 months over there. I think, trying to think, big decision point. It's always when you're in certain areas, it's moving left or right. Simple as that.
Right.
But, wow, you got me on that one. So decision point. I think back with a couple buddies of mine. So we worked on all this fuels equipment. They had these huge fuel bladders out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And our goal, we weren't like a lot of the Army, the Marines, the frontline stuff. But we had to launch X amount of fighter aircraft in a certain amount of time, and they require fuel.
Right.
And so many times and I would say, never gets talked about is these behind the scenes jobs in the military that have to go, or the front guys they wouldn't be able to operate.
Right.
And we had these huge fuel bladders, and we had a particular part of the mission that was very critical, and we had some equipment out there, and we had to make some split-second decisions on how we get enough, basically, fuel into aircraft. Simple as that. But if that fuel didn't get into aircraft, that aircraft wasn't going. Those bombs weren't landing. All our pilots were amazing. Bombs on target in Desert Storm. I mean, they lit that place up that first night.
Yeah.
But we had to make some decisions of how we got equipment to work and things to move that we would have never made on a normal basis. And I don't know how to put that into layman's terms, but it was like after it was over, we're like, holy shit, excuse my language there. What made us do that, you know?
Right.
But I think a lot of training was in that, military training is that way. You react based on your training, and that's how we did that. So,
well, hadn't you made those decisions, the outcome could have been a little different.
Yes.
And that in and of itself is could be scary to think about, quite frankly.
Right.
And
that was probably the reason that decision kind of point came up to me was by the wing commander. We were told that they're like, if you guys, it came back to that level where Colonel Lennon, he flew in Vietnam and he flew in Desert Storm and he led them guys in the first night of Desert Storm. Guy was an amazing commander. We met him a couple days later and we didn't know he was even aware of what was going on. And he's like, we have no idea how you guys pulled that off. We were kind of like, well, we don't either. But, that split second decision was my buddy Rich Gower was out there with me and Chad Babb and Bob Reynolds. And we still stay in touch today and tell many stories about that night. So,
well, that's good stuff. Tony, I appreciate your time with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Folks, make sure you go check out ovnopvetnow.org. Get involved. We're going to have all of their information in the show notes below. And before we let you go, as always, make sure you go check out our parent company, Heroes Media Group. Go to heroesmediagroup.com. Check out all the podcast shows and stuff that we have coming up here later this year. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.